All right, guys, second tutorial of the day. How did you guys feel about the last one? I think going into number 2, like I said, this haircut is gonna be very different because number 1, it's a different style, different choice of length. Number 2, different hair texture, which is huge. And then obviously number 3, different head shape, different facial structure, right? So how are we gonna cater the best haircut with what Angel has come in with? So naturally, right when we felt the head shape, what do we feel? More round, less dips, right? I actually don't feel many dips. His parietal ridge is just round. It's almost like a sphere that I'm working with. So we're in a lot of luck. Once again, he has a very good head shape. Honestly, whatever shape, square, triangular, round I put on his hair, it'll probably look pretty good. But what do I know about round surfaces? You don't need to build up too much weight. So on a flat surface, you wanna build a corner to combat that, right? But on a round surface, you don't need a corner necessarily because he already has shape, okay? It's not this, it's not a cone, exactly. So first thing we're gonna do with Angel's hair is gonna saturate it, but I think I'm gonna go with a very classic brushback look, and I wanna style this a little bit more wet so that he can have a little bit more, so he can actually have a little bit more moisture while he rocks it. And the second thing is the choice of length is gonna be a lot shorter than this, obviously. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and saturate his hair. And the reason why I'm going in with my fingers is because I just want the water to be evenly spread. Now, as I'm saturating his hair, I notice, or not notice, but I need to identify one thing. The biggest what area? Problematic area. So where does the most problem lie in Angel's haircut? And I think I can immediately see it. See that? This area is the most problematic area. It's just too much, right? I think just by knocking some of this out, I'm gonna be able to identify everywhere else a little bit more easily. So what we're gonna do is let's start in the back, yeah? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have all my clips loaded on my shirt so I can move in a speedy manner. And I need you guys to watch carefully at what I do. Section number 1 is gonna start at the top, apex, and his head's gonna be tilted back. I'm gonna identify the nose, and from the nose, I'm gonna draw a straight line all the way back. Nose, straight back. Okay, now this is my midpoint now, okay? This is my midpoint for the left and right side. Next section is gonna be in the back, and I'm gonna grab my comb, and I'm gonna tilt it down. Okay, at the beginning of that round to behind the ear, we're gonna create a section. This section is called the radial section. Comb goes in, dips in, and we're gonna create a section straight behind the ear, and push everything forward. Next section through, same thing here. Read the round, straight back all the way. The biggest problematic area is in the back. I'm trying to section this out first before I move on. Second, I taught you guys before this, is I'm gonna read the beginning of this round into the corner of this hairline. So boom, create a section. And let's just go ahead and isolate. Clip it up nice and clean. Same thing here. We're gonna go ahead and read the roundness of the back into the corner of the hairline. Now I have a guide to work with on that side. So boom, just draw it out. Everything is gonna come straight into my palm. I don't want you guys to get lost right now. Stay with me here. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and isolate the sides. Push, because this is not long enough, okay, just push. Just slide a clip through, hold. Same thing with this side. Pull everything over. Once I pull, leave my finger there. Comb comes under, comb comes over. And now we're able to start with just the back here. So we've identified just the back and we're able to start with that. So the first thing that I need to look at is head shape, which is round. His head shape is round and the technique is layering. Now, should I go with a round layer or should I go with a square layer? Square, round, triangular. Square is still gonna build up a little bit of weight in the crown, right? Round is gonna knock that corner out, right? By using a round layer, I'm actually gonna be able to emphasize more movement. So this haircut's gonna be able to be a little bit more movable. So let's go ahead and draw a vertical section straight down, straight through. Okay, and let's start with working on this side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and isolate this side. straight down, and then boom. Okay, so we're just gonna start in the middle. And I'm gonna pull this layer up, and I want you guys to come behind me real quick. And I'm gonna take this up, and I'm gonna take it directly off base. On base, sorry. Square would be like this, right? This would be a square layer. A round layer is gonna move higher. And that's where my guide's gonna start. And I'm just gonna move based on how the shape of his head looks. So I'm traveling based on his natural shape of the head. And as I get to the bottom here, I'm just gonna go ahead. Okay, and cut to how his hair naturally likes to lay. So round is very simple shape, guys. You're just cutting a layer based on what shape his head is, okay? Very simple. So second guide's gonna come through. And because this is a round layer, I wanna move round horizontally as well. Now, when I'm moving round horizontally, I'm not over directing this back to previous. This is now gonna be cut wherever this section is at. So because the section is right here, I'm gonna pull, check my guide, and create my incision. Pull, okay, check my guide, pull, and same thing here. I'm gonna move underhand because this is just gonna help out with my body positioning just a tad bit. Next guide through, staying here, and I'm moving my body now. I'm just changing my position and I'm cutting here. Okay, check my guide. And as I move up, I'm moving up with the section. Last guide, same thing here. Using my body to use the correct amount and buildup of weight. Okay, so here I come in, fine side goes in for maximum tension, and I pull, check my guide. Once I see it, I have to commit to it. Same thing, boom. Once I see it, committing to it. Okay, so now what we have on this side obviously isn't a polished look at, but we have something sitting a little bit more movement. There's actually some movement going on, and it's not so overly heavy. It's not overcomplicate this process. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a guide going straight down, and now, because it's on this side, we're gonna stay on this side, and we're staying on the same side. The side never changes. What changes is the push and pull technique. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna push. I'm staying here, take a step forward. If I kept doing this on my last one, that's how I moved, right? Head stayed the same. My first guide was here, and I took a step back with each section. Now what am I gonna do? Okay, I'm gonna take a step forward, and I'm gonna probably end here. We're gonna stay right here, push into that guide. Once I see the guide, I'm gonna cut it. Okay, boom. Now, as I travel to the bottom, I stay pure to my technique and I follow my guide. I think the biggest challenge people make is that where they cut, they need to imagine it to make sense. But you need to kind of break away from that, and once you create your zone, and once you create your guideline established in the middle, you need to follow that throughout your regular haircut. Throughout your regular pattern, you need to follow that, and you need to trust your over direction. Okay, so boom, same thing here. Changing the body positioning just so it's a little bit more easy on my body, right? Now, as I move on to this right side, I'm gonna draw a section, and notice how I start pivoting just a little bit. It's a pie. I'm not sectioning like that. I'm sectioning like this because we're working on a round surface. So we're pivoting as we get to the right side. Begin my pivot, section that up. Same thing here. Okay, so push everything into that guide. Okay, boom, push everything into that guide. Start pivoting. Okay, Okay, 2 sections at a time. Now what I do is from here I take a step forward. And I need to make sure I'm on this section. I'm not cutting from this section. Boom. There's my guide. And remember, you're moving round, so you want to pull up. Always pull up. Last guide through, grab the rest of that, take a step forward again. Okay. See where my body is? I'm right behind the section, and I'm following the curvature of the head. Push into the new guide. There's my guide. And both sides are finished now. So we have something a little bit more movable with a little bit more movement going through the entire haircut now. Let's move on to the sides. What do I know about the sides? It's the same shape as the back, right? But one thing I notice about Angel's hair and head shape, this corner dips in a little bit more than the back. So we need to build up a little bit more weight here. So I'm gonna stay closer to a square triangular shape on the sides. So I'm gonna use graduation. And because I wanna stay in between a hybrid of building up weight, but also removing weight. So layering is removing, graduation is building. Diagonal is gonna be the perfect medium. So the first guide I'm gonna take is gonna stay right here. I'm gonna grab that guide, and I'm gonna go ahead and create my incision. And I'm not worried about the length in the back. We deal with that disconnection after. And the finger is also gonna stay diagonal, okay? We're gonna go ahead and create our incision. And that's the line you wanna build up. Diagonal. Moving into our second guide, we're gonna follow that. All we're gonna do now is cut back to previous. Okay, and we're gonna follow that line through. Now we're gonna transition the sides into the back, right? So this section that I draw here, it has to connect in with the back. And so this is when I start staying a little bit more mindful. Up until this choice of length, it's whatever I choose to choose in this side profile, right? Whatever is gonna sit the best here. As I transition into this section, I need to start using my brain a little bit because this section is what's gonna connect the sides into the back. So I grab this section right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and see what kind of line we end up with. What do we notice here, guys? It goes from short, this is our guide right here, right? To long. That's our disconnection right there, right? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and pick this up, short. Okay, I'm gonna follow that guide through. And watch carefully what I do here. As I pick this up, I'm gonna follow that guide through. And as I get to my length in the back, I'm gonna go ahead and elevate it. This way I can connect this line through, and there's not gonna be a disconnection, but I'm still able to maintain this length nice and long while being able to keep this area nice and tight. I'm gonna draw a section straight back, and I'm gonna do the same thing now. I'm gonna go ahead, boom, there's my guide. As I get to the back, I'm gonna go ahead and elevate. And we're able to create a beautiful blend going from short to long. One more guide through, boom. Grab that guide. Okay, there's my guide, cut that through. Okay, so right here, same thing, gets elevated. So this is the line, and that's the disconnection. And how am I gonna blend that? I'm gonna pull, I'm gonna elevate. Obviously, this last guide through, you can just kind of cut through it. But also still, because we're on top, slightly elevated. And it has a beautiful transition into the back now. And we don't have to sacrifice any of the back. And also we can keep the sides nice and tight. Our goal is to keep the sides nice and tight while leaving the length in the back the exact length that we kept it at. So how are we gonna do that? The first section we're gonna draw is going to be diagonal. And this is gonna stay diagonal, just like the section. So boom, comes in. And I'm gonna go ahead and stay nice and tight. And I'm gonna create my incision. Okay, coming into it. Second guide goes through. And I'm gonna over direct this back to previous. So So this gets over directed back to previous. I'm just gonna go ahead and follow that guide. As I get to this third guide, I need to think a little bit because this third guide is gonna be my transitional guide from the sides to the back. So I'm gonna draw a guide all the way through into the back. Go ahead and clip that out of the way. Now, as I get into that guide, I'm gonna start with my sides, and I'm just gonna over direct this back to previous. Boom, there's my guide. And as I get to the back here, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this, and because there's gonna be a fat disconnection here, I'm gonna go ahead and elevate this guide up. Okay, so one more time, I'm gonna go ahead and elevate this guide up. And by elevating this guide up, I'm able to keep the sides nice and tight, but the bottom is still allowed to be left nice and long. Okay, so one more time as I transition into the back. Okay, grab that guide, fingers stay nice and tight, following my original guide. And as I get to the back here, all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut by elevating. This way you're able to avoid a big disconnection, but you're still able to blend it in a way where we're able to keep the back nice and long. And then we could just finish that section off here by doing the same thing, splitting that in. Next step is going to be the top. Section straight through the middle, boom. Okay, use a clip just to isolate. Simple, section straight through the middle, okay? Now you might be wondering at this point, how do I know what the choice of length in the front is gonna be? And why aren't you starting in the front? Because isn't the bangs what matter the most? In this case, not necessarily, because I think the most important part is gonna be the disconnection that we create in the back. So normally, right, when you see this, most people would go right here, right? Can we agree on that? Why is that incorrect? Is because this hair right here needs to lay on top of the hairs back here, on top. It can't just blend in. We're not creating a pompadour right now. Not every haircut is a crop or a pompadour. This is gonna be a wavy middle part. So what I need is I need there to be a slight disconnection. And I'm not saying that this connection needs to be this big. The current disconnection is way too big, but I do need to create a slight disconnection. Reason being, this length needs to lay on top of this length, and it needs to fully cover that length. So the length that I need to take, choice of length-wise, is gonna be slightly disconnected. So here, I'm gonna pull out a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna cut there. Pull, a little bit more. Okay, and then now you guys are able to see that's the disconnection we're looking for. And that is gonna just lay perfectly on top. Watch carefully what happens here, right? You gotta watch this area. This comes up, and as it goes down, it lays perfectly. Now I get to determine what shape I want in the front. Probably gonna go square. Okay, so here, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up. Body staying nice and square. Okay, shoulders are rested. I'm gonna pull up, boom. I'm gonna take a step to the left, and I'm using my feet to control that shape. Now, if I went square, and remember I said I wanted to build up a slight corner, horizontally, what shape should I go with? Square as well, right? So square, cutting line from the front too. So this time we need to over direct. We're gonna go ahead and over direct this section back to previous. So this section is now gonna get pulled back to previous. There's my guide. I create my incision, pull, there's my guide. Okay, and I pull, there's my guide, my incision. We're just gonna keep moving on this left side here, right side here. Okay. Bend the comb, maximum tension. There's my guide. Okay, bend the comb, maximum tension. There's my guide. Okay, bend the comb, maximum tension. There's my guide. push everything on this side over now. Push everything over. And then I'm just gonna cut whatever is left. Back to previous. Just take a step and check my over direction, okay? Tension used to be tight. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and do the same process on this left side here, but something's gonna change slightly, which is instead of pulling, I'm gonna be what? Exactly. So here, same thing, I'm gonna be pushing the hair. Once I see that guide, I cut. Second guide on the left side. Okay, and move little by little. You don't need to grab all the hair in the beginning. So boom, okay, finger gets tucked under comb. Okay, tight. Check your guide. Okay, comb, finger, pull, check your guide. Snip, comb, finger, guide, snip. And why am I not point cutting? The hair already has texture. I don't need to add more texture to textured hair. If anything, I want a softer silhouette, a cleaner silhouette, so I'm not gonna texturize his hair. Okay, third guide through. Push that over. Pull. Push. Okay, and everything is gonna go over after. Top, back, sides, everything is finished. So this next part is gonna be a little bit more visual now. So same thing, because this is gonna be styled into a middle part, I'm gonna go ahead and split his hair down the middle. Okay, so head slightly back. I'm gonna go ahead and split down the middle. And I'm gonna look for my disconnection from the top into the sides. And it's gonna be right here. You guys see that? Big disconnection, right? I pull it in, there's my guide. So how I'm gonna blend this in is I'm gonna pull in the back here, I'm gonna go ahead and blend it in a little bit more tight. And as I get to the front, I'm gonna leave it more and more disconnected because I want the bangs to be longer. So from here, boom. We're gonna go ahead and blend that in. And as I travel to the front, we're gonna leave that disconnection more and more longer. I'm gonna leave it all pretty long. So now the disconnection isn't as massive. Okay, so same thing here. We're gonna start a little bit tighter with the disconnection. And as I get to the front, okay, I'm gonna leave the disconnection a little bit more long. So I want the front to be a little bit more disconnected than the back. Boom. And I'm transitioning into a longer length. This way, this connection isn't so drastic and I can have a little bit more of that floaty texture in the front, but on the back, it's just blended. So this is my transition before getting into styling. But before I get into styling, I'm just gonna go ahead and feel out the weight, how everything's laying. So now this is the part where I get a little bit more visual and creative with how this look is gonna be finished. So the middle part is sitting nice, and I actually like the weight up top. So I'm not gonna soften the weight that I already like up top, right? If you guys notice, come over here and feel it. The top doesn't have too much weight right now. Right? Okay, so we notice the back is where a lot of this weight is sitting, right? So I think when you're transitioning into removing weight with wavy hair, you don't wanna do it dry because it's just gonna be more of a difficult process, number one. Two, you're not really gonna be able to see the layers that correctly. And then number three, you're probably gonna damage the texture even more. So you wanna do it when it's wet. Now here's how I like to soften wavy hair or curly hair. You could almost say his hair is curly, right? So we're gonna saturate a little bit more. Now the top, can we agree? We like the weight, it's perfect. So why would you soften it even more. Like I said, you don't need to touch anything that isn't broken. The back here, we're gonna grab our feather razor and we're gonna split it in half. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna go layer by layer and remove this weight. So watch what I do. I'm gonna grab a layer, drop it down, and I'm just gonna remove all the weight internally. Just do that. And I'm gonna move on to my next layer and push it down. Push it down. One more. This way, you're not sacrificing the texture, but you're still able to remove a lot of that internal weight. Now, this very last layer up top, that's gonna comb up, you're not gonna touch this very last layer, because this is gonna be the external layer that's gonna cover everything up. And you don't wanna ruin the surface of this layer right here. So same thing on this side. Very simply, grab a guide straight through, and from that guide, we're just gonna remove that weight. Same thing here. We're just gonna grab another guide, push it down. And that's the last layer. Just brush it up top. And because he has pretty coarse, wavy hair, I don't think I wanna go in with the blow dryer and matte paste and just, you know, this is not that look. There's right looks for everything, but this is not the best way to style with a blow dryer and matte pomade. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add some water back into the hair and resaturate everything. And with the water in the hair, I'm gonna go ahead and add my texture paste. Now what texture paste is gonna do is texture paste is gonna be the hybrid between matte pomade, dry clay, you know, something a little bit more wet, and I'm just gonna add a little bit. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and absorb this pomade into the hair. Slick the sides back, get it into the roots, and I'm scrunching. With the longer layers up top, I'm scrunching. I'm not pushing anything over, I'm just scrunching because I wanna really bring his natural texture out and I want there to be some volume. And now what I'm doing is I'm just seeing how everything wants to naturally lay, and I'm working with his natural texture. I noticed something that's bothering me a lot, and it's his nape. So the nape, the length down here, with how this line is looking, it looks very messy. So I'm gonna grab my feather razor once again. I'm gonna drop it down. I'm just gonna create an external line. Literally just gonna create a little bit more of an external line going into my nape. As I get to the other side, I'm not gonna do the middle just yet. I'm just gonna keep creating this external line. Wherever I see all these messy baby hairs, it's kind of getting in the way of my styling almost. Once that's set in, I'm gonna grab my trimmer and I'm gonna clean up everything around it. On the sideburns here too, I think I'm just gonna give it a very soft taper. Nothing too harsh, very soft. Okay, I'm just gonna, 2 guard open goes into that weight line. No guard. Okay, a soft flick, okay? I'm not trying to get, you know, the cleanest taper. I'm just trying to give him something a little bit more clean on the sideburns that he can wear, right? So I'm just trying to get a little bit more definition into the sides here. So the taper is not my focal point at all. So I'm not gonna spend more than maybe 1 to 2 minutes on each side. Nothing too crazy, nothing too harsh. Just something very soft and also lived in, right? I'm not gonna give him any hooks, no C-cups. There's no point of doing any of that. So now it looks a little bit more polished than before. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side real quick before I move on. Okay, and just close it up. And then it's pretty much just detailing after that. Very soft, nothing crazy. Okay, with the taper, you don't need something like too polished. Like, just try to keep it natural, because I almost don't even want it to make it look like, oh wow, he gave him a taper. You know what I mean? It's just more like, okay, he cleaned the sideburns out. Now, what I can go and move on to is the post styling of this haircut. What do we notice right now, guys? So it's a little wispy, a little dry maybe, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and finish it with a little bit more cream and a little bit more water. And I'm gonna go heavy with diluting it just so that we can really get that wet look. So it's like a watery paste. We're gonna add that into his hair. Okay, and I'm just kind of playing with the style now and just making sure everything kind of falls into how I imagined it. And I can kind of go creative in the front, maybe have the left side sitting up, but bring the left side a little bit down, okay? And show off that disconnection just a little bit. This is kind of all up to how I want to style it. And I think for a look like this, what's very important also is when to really stop touching it and just letting it air dry. Because the more you touch it, the less polished it's gonna look. You want to just kind of stop at a point where you've done enough. So once I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty satisfied with how this looks, because this is a wet look, I'm gonna grab the water, I'm just gonna give it a light mist. And while I give it that light mist, I'm gonna finish that off with hairspray. So light mist and hairspray goes on right away. And I'm just gonna lock in the entire look. And I'm adding a generous amount so that it could really soak up that hairspray. Right after I do that, I'm just gonna blade them out, sideburns real quick. Maybe use my comb once or twice just to really finish the look off. Other than that, I go ahead and see what my final product looks like. All right guys, that's gonna wrap up my final look for this haircut. I feel like because we went with a nice wet style, you kind of wanna emphasize the curls and the waviness that the hair naturally has. But I feel like, you know, overall, this transformation isn't, you know, the most drastic, but it's actually complementing its natural texture and hairstyle, which I feel like most people should always focus on their clients in the shop, always complimenting what they naturally have and just adding some better characteristics to it. But that's gonna end up this tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys on the next one.